Live from Nature's Fair Markets in Vernon, BC, naturesfair.tv and Flora present Become a Speed Vegan with Chef Alan Roettinger. Now, here's your host for the evening, Karen Marquardt.
So good evening, everyone, and welcome to Vernon Nature's Fair Markets. We are very pleased this evening to have a very special guest in our Apple Bistro. Chef Alan Roettinger has been a personal chef and private chef for 30 years, and he has written a number of cookbooks. He's worked with celebrities. He's even cooked for a prime minister. He has a raft of experience. He's entertaining. He's charming. And it's a great experience to have him here with us touring with Nature's Fair Markets this week. So we're very pleased to introduce him. We have, of course, his books on tonight, Omega-3 Cuisine, Speed Vegan, and we're very pleased to be offering them to you at a one-night-only special price, as well as Flora's Udo's Oil. Udo's Oil is a choice oil that Chef Alan has been using in his cuisine for many, many years. He's a big fan. He will be telling you all about that this evening, and we're very grateful to Flora Manufacturing for bringing Chef Alan to us tonight, and we hope you enjoy the presentation. We'll be doing a draw for a book afterwards, as well as there'll be shopping, question and answers, and samples. We have wonderful samples for being our guest tonight. There'll be some food that he's preparing. We'll be bringing that out afterwards. So without further ado, please help me welcome Chef Alan Roettinger.
Thank you. Whoa. I didn't know I had such a loud voice. That was booming. I'd like to have that at home. So I'm going to get into some cooking and I'm going to get into some explanation. But before I do, since I don't know anybody, now I know her, but I don't know any of you. And I like to put it in a context that will serve us later on in the presentation, but also put us all on the same page as people. I have three fundamental questions that I like to ask. And the first one is, can we all agree that it's very important to be clear? No disagreement? Excellent. Okay, we're off to a good start. So the next question, a little bit easier, is everyone clear on the purpose of life? Is laughter mean yes? This isn't a philosophy class. I'm not going to lay a whole, long, heavy thing on you. This is really simple. Everyone? Anyone? Yes. Who said yes? What is it? In one word. Eat healthy? What'd you say, sir? Happiness. Excellent. Does anybody disagree? The purpose of life is joy. This is what we're all after. Okay, this is important. Because the next question is, why don't diets work? No joy. This is a great crowd. Last night it was like pulling teeth. Okay, excellent. Okay, so the reason I bring these questions up, I've made a career out of working for very wealthy people, and they would always give me parameters. We don't like this, and we must have that, and none of this. And it would change from day to day. Now I'm on this diet, now I'm on that diet. And that diet didn't work, and I'm on this one. Because there was no joy in any of them, so they constantly, looking for another one. So my job was never to tell them that diet will never work, because I knew it. Everybody hear of the Atkins diet? All the sour cream and bacon bits you can eat diet? Didn't work. In fact, it didn't work for Dr. Atkins. Rest in peace. But my job was never to tell them what they should eat. They didn't really like it when their staff told them what to do. They were there to tell us what to do. So my job was to take whatever crazy idea they had and make it taste good to them. That was job security. Now I've shifted my focus. I'm tired of doing that because, not that I'm tired of cooking, I love cooking, but I always felt a little weird giving them something that I knew was killing them, making them fat, dull, slow, and, to an early grave. So I'm doing it something different. I'm taking what is good for you and making it taste good to you so you don't feel like you're on a diet. You're just eating really well. Does that sound good to you? Yes. Okay, so how did I get up here? I'm wearing this nice jacket that Flora bought for me for this tour. It's a nice jacket. And it's got their logo here, Udo's Choice. But I want to make clear before I start, because I like to, when I give a testimonial, I want you to feel comfortable that I'm not just a shill for some company, that it's an honest testimonial. And full disclosure, I don't make a cent from the sale of this oil or any of his other products. Okay, so I make money from selling my books and teaching classes and other things that I do for money. But this, I'm telling you because I'll explain. When I was, this is about in the mid-90s, I had been cooking for about 20 years, and I was haggard. You spend most of your time like this, and bent over and on your feet for 18 hours and this kind of thing. So I was really tired, and my back hurt, and I was getting arthritis. It was getting hard to hold the knife for long periods of time. I'd sometimes have to stop and do this, from time to time, because it was just. And I thought, well, this is the life I've chosen. I don't have no regrets, but this is what happens. You get old, you get tired, and things start coming unglued. So, and I had dandruff and dry skin, a whole bunch of complaints. So I went to my doctor for my annual checkup, and he was a forward-thinking doctor. He was all about what works. He had an acupuncturist in his office, and he had a chiropractor there, and he had a lot of different things. He was a medical doctor, and he gave me a little bottle of Udo's oil. He said to me, "How do you feel?" And I said, "I feel terrible." And he said, what do you mean? What's the problem? I said, "Well, I got a backache." I went through the whole thing. And he said, "Well, that's no way to live." And he went into he had a little refrigerator where he had some medicines, and he pulled out, not one like this, but a little one like this. And I'd never heard of Udo or the oil, and it was coming out of the medicine cabinet there, out of the fridge, and he said, "I want you to take 2 tablespoons a day. And this is good for your heart, it's good for your brain, it's good for your skin, it's good for everything." I said, "Okay." So I went home. Does anybody here like to drink oil? You do? You like to drink oil? There's one in every bunch. Yeah. And I'm not criticizing. If you like it, that's great. I tried it. I did it dutifully. 2 tablespoons a day for about 3 days. And then I said, I don't care how good it is for me. No joy, right? I'm not going to do this. This is ridiculous. I feel like I was going to gag. And so I came up with a strategy. I was going to leave it out of the fridge because it was supposed to be kept in the fridge, preserve it. I left it out for a week, and then it's rancid. I threw it away. And I told him it went rancid, and that was it. And I never tried it again. And then serendipitously, I met Udo, and he used to have a picture of his face right here. Now it's on the side. I think they're afraid he's getting old, and they don't want to associate the oil with him because if he passes away, then what are they going to do with the oil? But anyway, his face used to be on every bottle. And I was at a peace conference in Australia, and a friend of mine brings him up to me and he says, "Do you know Udo?" And I knew him right away with a picture. And I said, "Well, I know his oil." And he kind of rolled his eyes, and he said, "I get this all the time. People don't know how to use the oil." And I said, "Well, how do you use it?" Because I was just chugging it, and it was awful. And he said, "Well, you're supposed to put it in your food." I said, "Why didn't anybody tell me?" He said, "Yeah, you eat it. Enjoy it with your food." I said, "Well, fine." And he said, "What I really need is recipes." And I said, I can help you with that." He said, "Really?" And I wasn't wearing this, so he didn't know. And I told him, he said, "What's your background?" I told him. He goes, "Wow, I'll send you a case of the oil and just start coming up with some recipes, and maybe we'll do a book." We did do a book. And I said, "Okay, fine. So I'll just cook with it." He said, "Oh, wait. You can never heat the oil." I said, "Great. I'm going to cook with it. I can't heat the oil." He said, "Well, you can take something that's hot off the stove, like soup or sauce or something, and then you can stir it in off the stove, and that's okay. But you have to eat it that day. And if you're not going to do that, maybe take half of it and add the oil, and the other half heat it up the next day and then add the oil." So you never want to heat it on the stove because that ruins the omega-3 fats. I said, "What are the omega-3 fats?" So he told me. The omega-3 fats, everybody know what they're good for? Everything. They're anti-inflammatory. They make your skin soft. They make your hair shiny. They make your eyes better. They make your brain work better. They're good for your heart. Every single cell in your body uses omega-3 fats for one thing or another. They help you absorb oil-soluble nutrients like vitamin A and vitamin E. They're responsible for the cell walls, the integrity of the cell walls, so that you've got a cell wall that's solid, and yet things can pass through them, osmosis. It's miraculous stuff. And most of the population, at least in North America, is deficient in omega-3 fats. Why? Because we get a ton of omega-6, which is another essential fat. There are only 2 essential fats. Essential meaning you need them. Your health depends on them. If you don't get enough of them, you can get sick. If you don't get enough of them long enough, you die. So it's pretty important that you get them. And we get enough omega-6 because that's in canola oil and safflower oil and all these oils. But we get a very bad oil. We get a damaged oil from fried food and all the processed food and all that. So that omega-6 is actually worse for you than no omega-6 at all because it causes inflammation, and it actually gets inside your arteries and then you get these little lesions on the inside of your artery. And then what does your body do? Because it's got a little boo-boo there, you know. Once it's, oh, I got a problem. So it patches it, puts a little internal Band-Aid on it. You know what the Band-Aid is made out of? Cholesterol. Fantastic. Yeah. And then you get enough of these, and it keeps working away, trying to patch the damage that we're doing to it every day, all day long. And eventually there's not enough room for your blood to go through, and then you can get a heart attack and die. So that's kind of bad. So what the problem with getting that much omega-6 is that when fats get into your body, they compete for the enzymes that break them down and make them available for our use. So if you get too much of one, then even if you're getting the other one in your diet, it gets crowded out, and you get like maybe 1% or something like that, and the other one's using all the enzymes up, and then you're not getting the omega-3. And omega-3 is hard enough to get in a modern diet, but even if you're getting some and you're getting so much omega-6, you're not even absorbing it. That's why we get deficient. So what he did was first he started with flax oil, which is very high in omega-3 and almost no omega-6 at all. And then he was actually trying to heal himself, and he did heal himself. He had pesticide poisoning, and he actually healed himself with omega-3 oils. But then he started to get what he said were omega-6 deficiency symptoms. He was getting papery skin and heart palpitations and other things that were kind of scary. So he realized he needed to get also omega-6 in his diet. But he wasn't about to go get the omega-6 that we were talking about before. He wanted high quality omega-6 from oil made with health in mind, not just shelf life in mind. So he made a blend. He's got some other seed oils in there with it that give you omega-6 and omega-3 in the right proportion, according to him, which is 1 part 6 to 2 parts 3. That way, you're likely to get a balance and get enough of both. So I believe him, because I'm not a chemist. I'm a cook. This is what I do. So this, what I've told you, is just what I heard, okay? I'm not a scientist. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not even a health expert. I'm becoming a health expert about my health. And speaking of health, you're all Canadians, right? Excellent. I'm from the United States, and I hear that you all hate your healthcare system. Is that true? You happy with it? I knew it! I knew it! Well, you know, I mean, nobody's happy with everything, you know. But I've been told, you know, if you like socialized medicine, ask a Canadian. They'll tell you it's terrible. I knew it. They were pulling my leg just because they don't want to pay for it. But here's the point, and I've been making the point in the United States. Stop calling it healthcare. It's medical intervention. That's what we're talking about. It's disease care. It's not health. Healthcare is our responsibility. I mean, nobody's going to follow me around and make sure I'm eating right, or make sure I'm doing exercise, or make sure that I'm not loading too much stress or wandering around miserable. They're not going to do that. I have to do that. This is our responsibility. And if I fail, if I just ignore it, then I'll get sick. And then I need medical intervention. Also, if I have an accident. But usually, if you're paying attention, you don't have an accident, usually. So, with that in mind, I'm going to address a few things we can do to make the health better, with the caveat that it must also be joyful. We have to enjoy our food. We have taste buds for a reason. Now, this thing can come up with all kinds of ideas, good ideas, bad ideas. It doesn't care. As long as we're following it, entertained by it, it's happy. It doesn't mean that we're going to end up well. It just means that it's happy. And this needs to be happy. You know, this needs to be enjoying it. But most of us, and for me, most of my career and most of my life, from here down, I couldn't care less. You know, as long as this is happy and this is happy, I couldn't care less. And this, you know, the core of your being, it doesn't care about anything except being happy. So now I've come up with a plan where this can be entertained, this can be gratified, and this can be happy. Good idea? Excellent. Okay. So the very first thing I came up with when I was trying to come up with some recipes, and here's the other thing. I forgot to tell you this. This is the punchline. I was working with this oil that my friend Udo sent me, and I wasn't thinking about my health at all. So this was like a blind test, a blind study. I wasn't thinking about it. There was no placebo effect. I wasn't thinking about health at all. I was trying to come up with recipes. About 3 weeks into it, I realized that my arthritic pain was completely gone. And my fingers that were bent, so this was still a little bit bent, they were getting really whacked. It was crazy. They're straightening out. And I don't have any back pain. And my dry skin is gone. I don't need the dandruff shampoo, and I have energy. And anyway, so I'm sold. And again, I don't make any money from this. So the first thing I thought of, okay, oil, and my training, of course, wasn't formally trained. I just started doing it, and after a while, I got good at it. But my background, I did a lot of continental cuisine, Italian, French, and so I'm thinking Italian oil, olive oil. So I thought, well, I'll make some garlic oil. It's very simple, and that'll make it palatable. So everybody have one of these? Anybody not have one? Get one. Do yourself the favor of a lifetime. This makes quick work, and it's very beautiful. And what you notice when you use a garlic press, it kind of shoves the whole thing out through these little holes, and sometimes you get these little shreds. So if you want it evenly distributed throughout the oil, what I do is as it comes out, first some little juice comes out. As it comes out, I just take a knife, and as it comes out, I'm just cutting it a little bit like this, see? Just like that. And that kind of makes the shreds. If you don't care about the shreds, just one last step for you, just squeeze it through. But I like to have a little more finesse. It's just the way I am. So I'm just going to squeeze it in there like that. And some of it's coming out the top, and that's normal. They always say that when they make a mistake, right? That's normal. But it is, actually, because the plunger doesn't quite fit exactly. But this is a really good brand, Xylus. I don't usually endorse a product, especially when I'm not making money from it. But Swiss made. It's like saying it's good. I lived in Switzerland for a couple of years, and I was very impressed with the culture. They have, the stainless steel garbage trucks? Amazing. One more. You can put as many as you want. I think in the book I say 7 cloves, because I just like the number 7. You could put 4, you could put 2. If you like garlic, you can put 12. If you don't like it, you can put 1. It's up to you. All right, where's okay. And then the oil. See how hard this is? And then, if you want, you can put in a pinch of salt. Or if you don't want to, you don't have to. I'm just going to put in some because I said that. And then stir it. I mean, how easy is that? And this is really good on baked potato. This is so much better than the sour cream and bacon bits. It really is. Thing is, when you get used to paying attention to how you feel after you eat something, it's not just this, but when it goes down, how does it feel? As you're eating it, trust me, when you pay attention to how you feel when you eat, you can actually feel whether or not your body likes it. When I eat something green like a fresh salad, it's just like my body's going, thank you. Yes, you got the message. I love this. Can you hear me? Oh, yeah, there I am. I came back. So, where was I before I got distracted with my sound? Anyway, there it is. It's good on baked potato. It's also good on steamed vegetables. Sometimes, I like to eat a lot of interesting food and spicy food and this and that. But every now and then I like to just give my body a break. One day just have steamed vegetables, maybe a little quinoa, a little brown rice, something like that, and a salad. Very simple. And this is really good on steamed vegetables. It's also good as an ingredient in other recipes, as you're going to see. Because this one over here I'm going to show you, but not yet. So the next thing I'm going to show you is we're going to keep this. We're going to use it. The next thing is, where's that blender? Okay, here we go. No, this is the one that's not clean. There must be oh, here it is. Ha! See, in my kitchen, I know where everything is. This I got here. Everything I got here, by the way. These are roasted peppers. Now, at the store in Kelowna, they didn't happen to have any that are roasted in a jar like this, so I had to actually just roast them. And it's very simple. You just take a pepper, and you cut it into pieces that'll stay basically maybe like this. And you take out the membranes, and you lay them on a little tray, and you put them under the broiler until they're blackened. Then you take them out, put them in a little bowl, and cover it for about 10 minutes till they steam, and the skins just slide right off, or should. And then they're delicious. So roasted peppers are a wonderful treat. So one of the things I used to like to always make and always have on hand was roasted pepper sauce. And I'm going to drain whatever juices have accumulated here. Just like that. You can put in, 4 or 5 or 6 or however much you want to make. Here, darling. Yep. And then I'm going to put in some... Aha. Okay, I don't know if you can see this. Sometimes you see the little green tip peeking through the garlic. That means it's kind of like beginning to sprout. And if you open it up, you'll see, can you see? You see the little, that's the germ. And I learned this in Italy. If you take this out, it will cause less indigestion and even less bad breath. It's just a little hard on the digestive system. So that's a good thing to know. And I'm going to see if this one, who was in the same, yeah, see this has the same one. I'm just going to pop it out. It just comes out very easy. It's a little extra step. Of course, you wouldn't know this if you put it in the garlic press. It'd be done, and it's too late. Okay, then I'm going to put in a little chili, not a lot. And you're going to get a taste of this because we're going to have, my charming assistant is going to have some little pieces of bread to dip in it. Oh yeah, put it over the hot water. Excellent. Wow, she's so good. She's only been helping me for a day, and she already knows my whole routine. So you can measure how much chili is tolerable for you. I'm not going to put a lot because I don't know everybody's taste. In fact, I'm going to put a little back in there. See, I grew up in Mexico. This is nothing, but for people that, tender tongues, you know, they don't want to hurt anybody. And actually, you don't have to put any chili at all. You could just leave it with just the salt and maybe fresh ground pepper if you want. It's up to you. This is really good in, you know, if you have a soup and you want to just give it some kind of extra kick. Or you can actually, when I'm done blending this, you'll see, you can put it on pasta, or you can put it on vegetables. You could, number of things you can do. And it's good to have just, if you're in a hurry and you have it in the fridge, and you're making something, and you just want something to put it, it's right there. Spoon it on. So I'm going to put, also I'm going to put in some Udo's oil, because that's what this is all about. And I'm just going to put in, you know, about 1/4 of a cup or something like that. Don't need to measure it. I mean, just... Okay, I'll be right back because the blender is over here. La, 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 la. Somebody want to sing a song while I'm gone? Come on. Come on. There it goes. Just like me when I wake up. At first, it's not really moving, and then it gets going. So there you go. You'll notice that it's kind of a pastel color. See that? That's the oil. If you did it with just the peppers, it would be bright red, but then the oil whips in and gives it a nice little color. So there we go. And now my charming assistant will take this over there. Thank you. So the next, and this is kind of get to be the fun part. First real recipe. This one is in omega-3 cuisine. And it's called Tapenade with a twist. Everybody know what Tapenade is? Anybody not know? Oh, good. Okay, so people need to know. All right, Tapenade is a Provençal little dish from Provence in France. And what it is, it's a paste that they make with olives and capers and different things. And they put it in a little bowl and they serve it with some toast and you spread it on there, and like an appetizer. The dish actually gets its name. Most people think it's olives that it's about. And there are olives in most tapenades. There are some that don't have any olives. And some of them don't have the dark olive. They have a green olive. But where it gets its name is from these little guys, capers. Because the word for caper in the Provençal dialect is tapenade. So anything made with the tapenade is tapenade. Simple. So in they go. I'm going to put about 3 tablespoons of capers. And then I'm going to put some pitted calamatas. Now these we pitted by hand because there weren't any that were here in a jar that were pitted. You can sometimes, this will save you a lot of time if you get them that are already pitted. But if you do that, I want you to rinse them really well because the pitted ones are much saltier than the ones that are not pitted. You want to know why? It's because there's the brine that they're sitting in is on the inside as well as on the outside. So you really have to rinse them well. The other thing I must tell you, even though they say they're pitted, you should pinch each and every one of them to make sure that one didn't get away. Because once you put them in the food processor and you turn it on, you'll hear and it'll be like 6 or 7 pieces and you'll never find them. And I've said this many times, millionaires and billionaires really hate it when they break a tooth on something you made. They hate it. Okay, then I'm going to put in some chopped fresh thyme and chopped parsley and a little bit of chili. And then I'm going to put in some lemon zest. And everybody have one of these? She has one, yeah. Aren't they great? Everybody, you know what this is? Everybody know? What an educated crowd. You don't know? You do? Okay, anybody not know? Okay, I don't want to leave anybody out. This is a microplaner, and it was designed by a carpenter, and you'll notice there's a hole on this end, and you can't see the hole on this end because there's a handle in the way. But he designed this with very razor-sharp blades, little mini blades, and it's a carpentry tool for final pass before he would use the sandpaper. And it was something that he was very proud of, and he designed this to go in a hacksaw frame. That's what the little holes are for. And he was, had it produced and got a patent and everything, and he was selling them, or he hoped he would sell them. And so he called the guy that was distributor, and he was saying how they're going. He said, they're going very well. He said, they're buying them at culinary shops. People are using them to take the zest off a lemon. He said, what? This is a carpentry. This is like a fine what, are you out of your mind? No. This is for carpentry. He said, buying a lot of them. He said, like a lot of them? He said, yeah, and they told him the figure, and he goes, well, let's put a handle on it then. So that's what they're used for. I suppose you can also use them in carpentry, but that's all I've ever used it for. And the beauty of it is, if you've ever used the old kind, where is it here? Oh, we don't even have it. You know the kind that looks like somebody poked a bunch of holes with a nail? I was always grating my knuckles, and then at the end you had to use a little knife to scrape it out from between the little points because it was stuck in there, and the inside you couldn't really get it. This is beautiful. I'm just going to do it right. Let's see. I'm going to do it right into this bowl so you can see. I don't know if you can see this, but all you do is you just kiss it. Just mwah, mwah. See how they come flying off of there? And the beauty of it is you're getting only the zest. Everybody know the difference between zest and pith? Yeah. Anybody not know? Okay. The zest is the colored part of the citrus, like the green part of the orange part of the yellow part, and that's where all the essential oils are, the beautiful smell, which is the whole point of doing this, is to get that flavor. And underneath that, there's this white stuff, and that's called the pith, and that is bitter, and it's not really enjoyable to eat. It's got bioflavonoids and stuff, so if you can force yourself to eat it, it's probably good for you, but no joy. It's not pleasant to eat. And this is probably co-evolved so that keep the animals from eating it or something like that. So it keeps me from eating it, and I recommend just using the zest. And if you forget, just say the words. Zest. Pith. It'll all come back to you. All right, here we go. So I'm just going to, and it's very quick and easy, and I've never cut myself once since I got one of these. It's because it's a sharp blade, and the most dangerous knife is a dull knife. Right, good. Because you have to push real hard on it, and then you don't pay attention because you figure it's not very sharp. And I've only ever cut myself a few times with a sharp knife. Many times, painfully, with a dull knife. All right, I am paying attention because I don't want to get that pith in there. I will look up at you in a moment. I know you're there. Okay. And what I like to do with my food is I like to build layers of flavor as much as possible. Sometimes you're doing something really simple and it's just, like this. There's 2 layers, it's just the oil. But a tapenade can be really delicious because, first of all, I'm going to put it in the food processor, but I'm not going to make a puree out of it. It's not going to be like a homogeneous puree. It's going to be like a slightly chunky thing. So when you're eating it, and you'll get a chance, I think you'll agree. And by the way, when you're scraping it out this way, you can go this way. But when you're scraping it off the other side, you go this way. Okay? You cut yourself. Okay. I don't take anything for granted. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pulse it. And once I get it fairly close to chunky, then I'm going to add my secret ingredient, the twist. The twist isn't the lemon. The twist is the lemon only when it's vodka. But this is going to be a different twist. Okay. So do you have that thing there? Yeah, thank you. Where would I be without my charming assistant? Is it all melted? Beautiful. It's hot. I can handle hot. Point. Okay. So first, where's the, here we go. And this is, I should have one like this at home. Actually, I have one bigger than this, but it's 20 amp and it'll blow the fuse every time, so I can't use it at home. Okay, here we go. I'm going to pulse it. You can't see it, but I'll tell you. Okay, so when it gets to this stage, you see it's like little pieces. Then I'm going to add the secret ingredient, but I'm going to tell you what it is. Chocolate. This is not a traditional ingredient, but chocolate is good for you. Does everybody know this? Everyone? Yeah. You knew that intuitively, right? Yeah, like you knew it when you were a kid. It's good for me. It is. It's. They did a study, I think it was in Sweden, where it was a blind study, and they had, I don't know how many people they took, a sampling of people who had had one heart attack, and they divided it into two groups and didn't tell them what it was about. And one group, they had them eat minimum 1 ounce of dark chocolate, minimum 70% cocoa solids every day. And the other one, they were told not to eat any chocolate. And this is sad, but the people who ate 1 ounce of chocolate a day were 300 times, I read this, 300 times less likely to have a second heart attack than the poor devils that couldn't have any chocolate. So I rest my case. Chocolate is good for you. And it also has a lot of antioxidants, and they're still discovering the benefits of chocolate. Every time I'm reading all kinds of things all the time about it. Now they discovered that it's good for this, it's good for your blood pressure, good for that. So, and of course the main ingredient is it's enjoyable. It's delicious. I got very well known for my desserts and the height of my career when I was a pastry chef. And chocolate was always a star protagonist because it's anybody know the botanical name for chocolate? The chocolate plant? Theobroma. You know what that means? Food of the gods. It's good enough for the gods, it's good enough for me. Okay. And now it's going to get into like a sauce. And I'm going to stop it at least once to scrape down the sides because this is a giant machine. Yep. It's done. Okay, so you can't see in here because it's hidden from you. Nothing personal. This is the way it's. Okay. Is there oh, look. You can see. Hello. Anyway, here's what it looks like. See? All right, so now you could put it in a little bowl, but since you're all going to get some, what I've done is I brought a disposable pastry bag. And you can get these at a restaurant supply. I don't know if there's one in Vernon, but you can probably ride away to them. There's a company called J.B. Prince in New York that supplies all this stuff very cheaply. When I first started cooking, the only pastry bag you could get was a cloth one. And it was a nightmare. If you had something that had oil in it, as you're piping it, or whipped cream, you whip cream perfectly. You put it in there, and you're piping, and it starts to separate, and the oil starts to ooze out through the bag, and then you get it all over your hands. And of course, they can't see it because in the dining room it's just Hakuna Matata. They're all enjoying their dinner. In the back, you're like, ah! Which brings up another point. I won't tell you what goes on in the back room of a restaurant because it would really turn you off to eating at a restaurant. I will tell you, learn to cook and eat at home. Save yourself. Truly. Once in a while, for your anniversary of a birthday or something like that. If you're traveling like me and you're in an airport, you got to eat something. And actually, I've never found anything in an airport that I could eat. And I'm not even counting since I went vegan. I'm talking about at all. Think of this. What is the purpose behind owning a restaurant? There's only two purposes. Fame and make money. And most of them, they know they're never going to be famous because it's really, can I use the C word? Crappy food. So it's all about money. So if they can cut a corner, they will. If it's illegal in your country to feed cattle ruminant parts, which creates mad cow, they will get their meat from another country where it's perfectly legal because it saves them, even a few pennies. But you multiply those pennies times how many customers, and it's big bucks. So I'm not naming any names. I'm not getting anybody in trouble. But when they're not in it for your health, there may be a little joy going out to dinner. But was that Russian game they play with a revolver? Yeah. No, I like to eat out from time to time, but I make sure it's a really good restaurant because if I can get it cheaper and better at home, what's the point? And usually I can. Okay, so then you get it in here like this, and you want to make sure you get all the air bubbles out because otherwise when you're piping it, it'll go and it'll splatter and it makes a mess. And if you're trying to make a pretty presentation, it doesn't work. So then save your rubber bands from the broccoli or from the celery or something. And then and I fold it over like this to make sure it doesn't come spurting out the top. And there you go. And then when you're ready, just snip the end off, and you can pipe it on a little cracker. And this is great if you're having a party, because you can do this like weeks ahead and freeze it. It freezes with impunity. And then just bring it back to room temperature, and out it goes. So now my charming assistant will take it. Thank you, dear. And that's the tapenade. So we're almost done, but now the best part. This is in Speed Vegan. There's a recipe in there called green curry salad. And green curry, if you don't know, is a Thai preparation. In India, when they make curries, and they don't even call them curries. To them, there's curry is a leaf curry leaves they use. The British call it curry. I don't know why, but anyway, they have curry powder. But that's anathema to the Indians, because they mix up all their spices each time they make a dish, and they don't all go in the dish. Sometimes they'll have some, and sometimes they'll have others, and then they'll toast the cumin seeds and the brown mustard seeds first, and then they'll add this, and they'll add a little bit more of this and a little more of that, and then they create this delicious dish. But the British are not getting it, so they figure, because they conquered India, and they wanted something, it's like what can you just like make a mixture that I could just put in my eggs or whatever, call it curry, whatever. So that's where we get curry powder from. But in India, they mix it up for each particular dish. The Thai people have basically 3, but actually 4, and a few more curry pastes. And these are fresh, like there's a root called galangal, which is similar to ginger. It's a relative of the ginger. And there's wonderful kaffir lime leaf. It's like 2 lime leaves together like this in each one. It's like 2 leaves stuck. I don't know how it does that, but they're 2 leaves together. And that's a kaffir lime leaf, and it has a wonderful flavor. And then chili and all these other spices, and they pound them with a mortar into a paste, and then they use those to make their curries. They use coconut milk, and they mix it. So I love the taste of Thai food. And if you've ever been to Thailand, I've never been to Thailand, but I was in Malaysia once. I went all the way to Malaysia to make one meal for one guy. Can you believe that? And meanwhile, I was there for 3 days. And I got a massage and everything. So I went into a Thai restaurant, and I thought, oh, great, because I love Thai food. You would not believe how hot that food is. And I'm talking about the salads, the soups, everything was like, I like hot food, but this was like, I couldn't even taste it. It was like, ugh. So anyway, we're not going to do that to you. But one that I'm going to use tonight is green curry, and it's relatively mild. And I have switch out here. My charming assistant will bring me my other stuff. Ta-da! Where is it? Oh, it's right here. All right. And the blender. Is this one clean? Here we go. Wait, but which one does this go on? Oh, you have a new one? Oh, thank you. Where would I be without an assistant? Thank you. So one of the other things that's prevalent in Thai food is basil. Now, they have a different basil. It's called Thai basil. To them, it's just basil. To us, it's Thai basil. We don't have this here. And actually, in Kelowna, they had run out by the time I got there. So we weren't able to include the basil. So if you find yourself in a situation where you're trying to reproduce this dish and you can't find basil, it'll be really good without it, because we did it last night, and it was actually I did it at the CHFA show in Vancouver, and it was just as good. Not the same, because of course not. Okay, so here's the green curry, and I recommend this one right here. That they got it in this store. This one is made for Westerners. It's not as spicy as the traditional one, and it also doesn't have ground shrimp paste. So anybody here vegan? Yeah. So you don't want the shrimp paste in there. And also, if you've got high cholesterol, you don't want the high, anyway. So this one does not have any shrimp paste in it, and it's quite good. And I'm going to take it and put it in this blender. And in the recipe, I don't remember, because I don't really use recipes, but I think it's a tablespoon. I'm going to put in more because there are more of you than... The recipe is for 4 people, I think, but that's like for a big salad. You're just going to get a taste. So I figure if I do a double recipe, should cover most of you anyway. No, she's going to be careful to count so that nobody gets left out. She's good for that. And then I'm going to put in lime lime peel. It's really hard to get coffee or lime leaf if you're not in a major multicultural hub like Vancouver or Toronto or someplace. I live in a little town in Colorado, and you just can't get it. Forget it. Not going to get it. I found it once at an Asian store in Denver, which is a good hour drive from me, in a freezer, and it wasn't the same. So what I found is that if you take the lime peel and the lime juice, it approximates the general feeling of the coffee or lime leaf. Not the same, but very close. So all I do is I just take the zest. Remember the zest? And in this case, it really doesn't matter too much if you get a little bit of the pith inside also, because there's such a strong flavor, it'll cover it all up. So I don't know if you know this. Most people, peeler, they just go like this, right? And it'll work. But this is a knife. So you want to do something like this as you cut. So move it at an angle, and you'll see it'll actually cut much more smoothly. And if you're trying to do like a light touch so you don't get too far under the zest, then it's actually very helpful to move it like a knife. Just like that. Or even just at an angle straight down, because it's cutting like a guillotine, you know, that little shape like this. It'll go right through there. I don't know, it's just the way my mind works. And just like that. See? So we're almost done. And I've already done another one. Can you see? Everybody see? Okay. Just like that. And I have things to say about how to use a knife, but we'll get to that. Okay. And then you just cut the lime in half like this. And squeeze whatever juice is in there. It's not a measurement. Some limes give a lot of juice, some limes don't. I have some brown rice vinegar, which I'm going to add, and that's going to take care of it. But whatever juice you can get out of there will help the flavor. And I have the lime peels that I did already, and the lime juice from those limes already. And now I'm going to put in the brown rice vinegar. I used to use the regular white rice vinegar you get in the supermarket, but I figure brown rice is better than white rice, right? So brown rice vinegar has got to be better than white rice vinegar. So that's the way I think. Plus, it does have a better flavor. It has more robust flavor. Then I'm going to add a little salt. I always use sea salt, preferably Celtic salt. A lot of people think that salt is just something that brings out the flavor of food, and it does. But it's not MSG. It's got a flavor of its own. If you get the mineral salt, the ocean salt, it's got all those minerals from the ocean, and it has a flavor of its own, and it's adding it there, and like that. So then I'm going to add some garlic cloves, and that's all from here. And then I'm going to add, let's see, can we have the other bottle? I'm going to add about this much. Make sure I don't get carried away. All right. This is a salad dressing, so you could expect some oil. This is a great way to use Udo's oil because you get a ton of it, and it's so good for you, and you're enjoying it. So there. Okay. I'll tell you the other one. Did I tell you about the Thai lady and the Swedish lady? That's not a joke. It could be funny, but no. I'm going to set this aside. Oh, actually, no, there's the other thing. I'm going to put the basil in there now. Get this out of the way. And by the way, when you see in a recipe, you know, a cup of packed herbs, or have a cup. See this right here? Does that look like a lot of? But look at this. Packed. It's not that much. So make sure that when you get a recipe like that, that you pack it. Because otherwise you won't get an accurate measurement, and then you'll be cheating yourself because maybe there's a whole bunch of flavor there you're going to miss out on. And basil is one of those things that really has great flavor. Okay. And every plant has a unique profile of antioxidants and all these phytochemicals that are good for health, and they have one effect or another effect. And it's good to eat a very varied diet, because if you eat the same thing every day, you're missing out on a whole bunch of stuff that could be really good for you. And every single cuisine, except for the North American cuisine, like Indian, Chinese, especially the ancient ones, Indian, Chinese, Thai, Japanese, the ingredients that they used for flavor are every bit as much for health, for the health benefits, as they are for flavor. In fact, I worked with an Indian lady who's cooking, a very great cook, amazing cook actually. And when she sensed that the boss was having a little bit of kind of indigestion, she would grate a little extra hing in that, and then she put a little bit of this, and she put a little of that. She was trying to help him. And I had no idea what she was doing. And then finally I said, what? She was, well, this is because he's having, I could tell didn't like the beans. They were like, so she's putting, and hing is this awful smelling stuff. The Latin name is fetida, which is fetid, I mean fetid. It has an awful smell. And what it is, it's a dried sap from the fennel plant, for a particular kind of fennel plant. And they use it in cooking. It smells awful, but when it goes in the food, it makes it taste really good. So anyway, just an aside. Okay, so now we're going to do the actual vegetables that go in the salad. And here's the funny thing. We don't have a giant bowl here. So we're going to use this. See? It's not as wide, but it's taller. So it works out. All right, so I'm going to put it somewhere where I'll just have my charming assistant hold it. The first thing I'm going to do, another thing, don't be intimidated if you look at a recipe and there's a whole bunch of things there and then you go to the store and you go, oh, they don't have it. Just learn to understand what you might like to see in that salad. And a lot of times in my recipes, the reason why the specific vegetables are in that is because I already did another recipe or two with other vegetables, and my editor said, you can't be putting that in every recipe. People are going to say, well, there's no variation. But when you see fennel in my recipes, I mean it. That's important. But most of them are interchangeable. This particular one, I have Savoy cabbage, which has that rumply kind of stuff. They don't have it here. Maybe they can't get it organic, so they're not going to buy it because they're on your side. They only want to give you organic food. So use a regular cabbage. No big deal. I mean, nobody's looking. What does Julia Child say? You're all alone in the kitchen. No one knows. So it's your kitchen. It's my recipe, but it's your food, right? So you can do whatever you want. So what I've done is I've taken, everybody know what this is? The Tuscan kale? Do we have one that's not shredded? Love having an assistant. My wife is a terrible assistant. She does her own thing. She's the gardener, and I'm her assistant. I water. I didn't used to water. I used to let them die, and she's teaching me, And I want them to grow because I'm a cook. Okay, so here's what they look like. The regular wrinkly kale is one, and this is the Tuscan kale, and the center rib is a little tough. So what I do is I just kind of grasp the leaf like this and just kind of gently pull out that center rib. It's kind of tough. And people who are not used to eating kale, it's going to be kind of interesting enough without this piece of wood in the middle. Thank you. So what I do is I just kind of, usually if they're really wide, I stack them like this. And I do this with collard greens or different greens. These are all kind of crinkly. So I'm just kind of gather them, put them all in a line. And then here's the first lesson in cooking skills. It's my belief that if you learn a new skill, you'll automatically want to practice it because you know how. It's like, look what I can do. So if you start practicing a skill, then you get really good at it. And then you'll want to do it more and more. And you'll get faster. And if that skill happens to be cooking or a cooking skill, the chances of you eating at home are greatly increased. And then your health will increase because you get to control what goes in the food. And specifically what does not go in the food when you're at home. You have control. Okay, so this knife is pretty sharp, and I've sharpened it just before I started. So you have to be careful. Get something on it. Okay. Some people think you want to chop the vegetables. When I was working for somebody famous, like Frank Sinatra or somebody, depending on the age group of the people that I was talking about, they would say, do you need someone to chop vegetables? And what they meant was unskilled labor. For the purpose of just one thing, and that is to get in the door with me so they can get a gawk at the famous person. I don't know why, because they're just people, but that's the way some of my friends were. The answer was no. And the reason I say no is not just because I didn't want to bring them in, and because I couldn't bring them in, because, hello, they didn't belong there, but because I don't want unskilled labor. I want to do things as well as I can. And when you cut, you don't want to chop. And there's a reason. You could chop herbs, right? Little leaves. But when you chop something, you actually are mashing the vegetables. You're mashing, and the cell walls kind of crumple, and then the juices run out. And you don't want them to run out prematurely, especially if you're cooking them. You want a clean cut, so most of the juices stay inside, like the onion or whatever. And you heat some oil in a pan, and then you throw in the onions. You hear this shh. You know what that is? That's the juices are on the cut surfaces of the onion, hitting the hot oil and flash boiling. Shh. If you leave it for a while and you don't touch it and you leave the heat on, eventually that shh will silence for a minute, and then you hear like that's the onions burning. And that's what you don't want. So what I try to do, when you saute onions, you build up a little flavor. What you do is you put them in the pan, and at first, whatever juices are on there are cooking, and then they kind of like caramelize slightly on the edge of the onion. And then a little more juice will run out, and then that'll kind of caramelize on there. And this will keep happening, and you'll build up this wonderful concentration of flavor, and that's why we do it. Otherwise, you just put it in the pot, pour water in it, and boil it. But this is why you saute and build up that flavor. So anyway, here's how you do it. I don't know if I should tell that one about the Japanese. Is that too gruesome? No. Okay, I'm going to tell it. They did this last night. I used to practice Aikido, the Japanese martial art. It's an unarmed, mostly unarmed. And my sensei also taught Kenjutsu, which is the Japanese sword fighting. Not Kendo. Kendo is the formal, really elevated form. This is just the samurai arts. And he explained to me the difference between a Japanese sword and a European sword. He was saying the European sword, and of course he was slightly prejudiced because he was Japanese, but he said that the European sword was this big heavy thing, you know, the Teutonic. They'd crush each other and cut and mash. And he said the Japanese sword is razor sharp, and it has 100 layers. They would take a block of steel and hammer it and fold it and hammer it and fold it and hammer it and fold it so that it was very flexible and almost unbreakable. Incredible. And razor sharp. And they developed a way of using it that maximized that cutting edge. And you see a samurai movie, it looks like they're chopping. They are not chopping. They are cutting. It's a slice. Like that. And even the overhead cut, it's made so that as it's coming down, it's cutting as a slice. And that maximized that cutting edge of that sword, and it would cut through armor because they had ki. And then shake off the blood. See, I cut it. And the knife is fine. And then put it back. Okay, so here we go. Try to watch the blade. Try to watch the blade. Oh, then the other thing, you don't want to cut your hand. So you hold your hand like a little crab, like this. See that? And the blade, you want a fairly wide blade, and if you get one at least 8 inches long. You don't need to get one as exaggerated, although it's fun. And it has uses. But for home use, you might, what about this long? And you want it to get at least 1.5 inches wide, because you don't want to cut your finger. So you hold your hand like this, and you put the edge of the blade right along this vertical. So you can see this from this knuckle to this knuckle is vertical, and the fingernails are tucked in. You know why? Huh? So you don't cut them. Exactly. Yeah, good. So you keep this vertical, and then the knife will go along here, and the little crab part, that's going to hold the vegetables. And then you just kind of walk the crab backwards. So here we go. And you just walk backwards like this, see? And you cut it as thin as you want. And make sure, watch the knife, watch the blade. I'll try to get kind of like, there we go. So you can see the other blade. Do not be confused by the sound of my voice. Watch the blade. Okay, see that? So it's a cutting motion. It's not chopping. And what this does is it makes a clean cut. And those Japanese swords, they'll cut you from here to here into 2 pieces, just like that. I haven't seen it happen except in movies. But I'm told it works. Just like that, see? And just move back. Can you see that? Okay. Just like that. Alright. Now I'm going to turn it the other way so you can see the crab action. Okay. And I'm cutting this fairly thin, because kale is kind of tough, and for the uninitiated, they could be like, why are we eating this? But I have another technique I'm going to show you in just a second as soon as I get this cut. The other nice thing about the crab thing is that while you're cutting, you can actually look up and you're not going to cut yourself. You can talk, somebody asks you a question, you don't, you know. It's just true. But I suggest you practice it a while first. Yeah, taking the blood thing off didn't work well for the counter here. I'm sorry about that. Didn't hurt my knife, though. All right, almost there. And this is the recipe called for watercress. And if you can get the hydroponic watercress, it's very tender and nice. But it's very hard to get it in a store that's ethical as this one, because technically it's not organic. The medium it grows in is not a certified organic medium, so they can't call it organic. But they don't spray it or anything. It's grown in a controlled environment, so it's fine. Where's the giant pot? Darling. Okay. She's wonderful. Okay. One more time. There we go. So, oh, no, wait. I forgot the demonstration. All right. I was just saying this. All right. Just stand by. Thank you. Okay. This, as I mentioned, is a little woody. It's a little tough. But there's this wonderful technique that I heard about. This was after I went vegan and I started hearing all kinds of stuff from the plant eaters, which I now happily am. Anybody want to know why? Because I wrote this book. It's true. I wrote this one first, and this was Udo's idea, and we kind of worked on it together, and I did all the work, and he got it published. So thank you, Udo. And it sold 11,000 copies, like in the first 3 months. So my publisher was like, 5,000 is, by the way, a successful book. Something like 90% of the books that are published are not successful. They sell enough, then that's it. And maybe the guy will get another book. Anyway, so while he was ecstatic, I said, give me another project, because I want, make another book. So he said, okay. He thought about it and met with his team, and he said, vegan quick. I said, what? Because I was eating foie gras and everything, And he said, vegan recipes you can make in 30 minutes or less. I said, okay. I'm used to those parameters, Now I wasn't getting them from a rich person. I was getting them from my publisher. And it was going to benefit me. So I said, fine. So what do they eat? What do they not eat? And it's like, really? Not even honey? Wow, that's extreme. Oh, well, okay. Parameters. So I made these recipes. And I wasn't making them because I was vegan or because a vegan would eat them. I was making them because that's the job I had. And in my introduction, I said, these recipes should please everyone because they're written for an omnivore's palate, mine. And so they should please vegans, should please everyone. They just happen to be vegan. Well, my editor got me on the phone. She said, vegans, you have to understand, are evangelical creatures. And they really would like this to spread. They want everyone to try this. And they're really not going to think that you're giving them much support if you just say, I just happen to be vegan, like it didn't matter to you. They'll expect a little more support. Could you rewrite that part of the introduction? Sure. So I was looking at it, and I was thinking about it, how should I do? And then this thought came, well, the least I can do is try this, because I'm going to go on the road and promote it. And I got to see, even if it doesn't work, I can say, well, I tried it, it didn't work. It works for you, great. This will work for you, But if you're not vegan, this will still work for you because it's good. So I did. And coincidentally, my brother-in-law had been bugging me to run the Pikes Peak Ascent with him. Everybody know what that is? You do? The Pikes Peak Ascent? Yeah. There's this mountain right next to Colorado Springs called Pikes Peak. It's 14,115 feet tall, or above sea level, I should say. And there's a town below it called Manitou Springs, and that's at 6,000 feet. And everybody lines up in the morning at 6:30 in the morning, and they fire a gun, and everybody takes off running, and they run up this trail. It's half marathon, 13.5 miles, 8,000-foot vertical gain. And at one point, you're like tree line, it's 12,000 feet, and it's impressive how much harder it is to breathe when the air gets really thin. And I thought, you're out of your mind. I've never been a runner. Why would I do this? And then I've been reading a lot, of course, because I was writing this book. I read this book called The Eating Animals by Jonathan Safran Foer. It's a beautiful book. There's none of this, It's just about what goes on in the factory farms and why you really probably wouldn't want to eat animals. And so I went to my doctor's office, and I got my annual blood sucking, and my cholesterol was on an upward trend. And even with the Udo's oil, it went down a little bit, but then I got cocky and started eating a lot of ice cream and everything else and started going back up again. So he said, this is unacceptable. 289 is just too high. And you're going up. And you're not going down. There's no fluctuation. You're just going up, 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 up. And he said, we're going to have to put statins. I said, who's we? You know, read me the side effects, and then we'll talk about we putting me on statins. And he said, well, what are you going to do? And he was like, you got me in a corner. And it was just like all the pieces of the puzzle just kind of went click, 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 click. And I said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go on a strict vegan diet, and I'm going to train and run the Pikes Peak Ascent. And he said, well, we'll see if that works. You know, it's like, how often does a doctor hear I'm going on a diet, right? I said, well, you don't know me very well, but I actually have a pretty strong will, and this morning I had eggs, and that's it. I'm done for at least a year. I'm going to give it at least a year, and then we'll see what happens. He said, well, I want you to come back in 3 months, and we'll test it again and see if anything's happening. I said, fine. Came back in 3 months, it had gone down to 208. At 6 months, it was 130. And I did train and run the Pikes Peak Ascent, didn't win. But my brother-in-law, who had been running every year for 25 years, only beat me by 15 minutes. Ha! And I'm going to run it again this year. So anyway, back to this. There's this very clever technique. It's called massaging the kale. And I thought this was, you know, I was a hippie in the 60s, but I kind of gave it up because I realized I needed a job and a few other things. And I thought, well, this was like a tree hugger thing, you know, massage the kale. Make it happy or something. It's tense. Massage it. But actually, it really works. So what you do is you take a little oil, just about, you know, half a teaspoon, and even less amount of salt, just a little bit of salt. And then you get it between your hands, and I just go like this. So you get it on your hands, and you massage the kale. You massage the kale. You really do. And it's remarkable what happens. It gets silky, and the salt kind of breaks the salt walls a little bit and tenderizes, and a little bit of juices will run out. You don't want to overdo it because then your hands will turn green. But it goes from being a kind of woody green that's not something welcome for people that aren't used to it into something that actually most people can eat. See that? It's amazing. And it doesn't take very long. It just gets silky, yeah, and soft. So that's the first ingredient. And see, my hands are a little bit green. If I kept going, they'd get real green. It does come off, but you don't want to go in the subway with it. They'll think you're strange or something. You don't have a subway here, right? Okay. So now I'm putting it in this big pot, this big tall bowl. And the next thing, let's see, we'll do this one next. It also, I mentioned that it calls for, what do you call it, Savoy cabbage. This looks very similar to Savoy cabbage. It's the same kind of wrinkles on it. And this is Napa cabbage, which is a terrific cabbage. It's a sort of a Chinesey thing. And where's my little knife? Here it is. I noticed when I look down, they're starting to go to flower. Right there, this little piece right here is kind of like a little blossom, so you just cut that out. When you notice when it starts to turn green, because usually it's pale, when it starts to turn green, always check the inside. I didn't think of telling you this before I looked down, but that's when it starts to go to flower, and that's really not very good. So then, using that don't cut your fingernail technique, and by the way, that's another thing millionaires hate, is when they find body parts in the food. It never happened to me. And no one's ever gotten sick on my watch. I'm very proud of that. And Frank Sinatra was alive when I left, just so you know. Okay. And just do that same little, see how my little crab's just kind of crawling backwards? Just like that. And you never cut yourself if you pay attention. Which brings me to another point that I'd like to make. I had an epiphany last year. Ever have an epiphany? It's great. I had been thinking about the expression, food made with love. You've heard that, right? Everybody's heard that. Food made with love. It's supposed to be, oh, and it's made with love. Okay, great. So it's made with love. How does that translate into anything better than it was before? Or, you know, if you didn't have the love, if you're just bored and you just did it, I mean, what would be the difference? How would you know if love was in there? And how do you get, more importantly, how does the love get in? Right? I really think, sometimes I philosophize to myself. And not to my wife. She's not interested in my philosophizing. But well, you know, it's not everything, you know, not everything in a marriage is easy. So I was thinking about it, and at one point, bing, I had an epiphany. Attention is the currency of love. That's how love is transferred from one person to another. If you love somebody, and when I fell in love with my wife, I had infatuated with several women before I met my wife. Infatuation is very different. But when I fell in love with my wife, suddenly I couldn't take my eyes off of her. When she spoke, it was like the most interesting thing I ever heard. And it was like, and when I was out shopping, I was thinking about her. And I see something, oh, I bet she would like that, and I buy it for her. And I was thinking about her all the way home, I was going to give it to her. If I was driving in my car, I hear a song on the radio, it reminded me of, my attention was literally flowing to her, even when she wasn't there. And when I would see her, she could tell. Because it wasn't like, oh, there you are. It was like I was anticipating. My attention was there, and she could feel it. And that's how she knew that I loved her. And it was, fortunately, mutual. Because I had somewhere it wasn't, and it was awful. This was good. So, how does it get in the food? The same way. When you're in the market, first of all, you're picking organic. That's already some attention. You're paying attention there. And you're picking organic because you want only the real thing, not any of the other stuff. No pesticides, no GMO, no mucking with it beforehand. So but even that's not enough. You'll pick the most blemish-free, the best ones. Not everybody does this. Some people just put it in the basket and they go. But if you pay attention, you'll notice, well, this one has a little bit of a rotten spot on it. I don't know who's going to buy that one, but I'm going to buy this one that's clean, that's good. You put that in the basket, and then you take it home and you store it carefully so it doesn't spoil until you're ready to use it. Maybe you'll pick an avocado that's going to be ripe 3 days from now when you're planning to use it, and you're thinking about how that's going to happen. This is a really tight space, isn't it? And then when you're going to cook, you cut it very carefully, very precisely for a specific purpose in the right shape. You try to cut pieces that are the same size so they're all done at the same time. So one isn't mushy and one of them's not raw, And then you present it artfully on a plate so it's beautiful. And then even you will look at it and you go, wow, look what I did. That's cool. That's beautiful. God, that's beautiful. Kitchen gods, Incredible. That's your attention going into the food. And when you make food that way, it's exquisite. There's something about that food, because love is energy. Love is the divine. This is what we are made out of. And when you focus it, it's like there's something that's very unscientific, but it's real. And so just wanted to share that with you, because if you cook that way, you'll really love your food, and the people who eat it will love you for it, because it's really special. Okay, charming assistant. Thank you. All right, now, the other cabbage. In the recipe, there's only one kind of cabbage, but since they didn't have it, I thought, well, if they don't have the one I want, I'll use two. So this is just the regular old green cabbage, and you can cut it by this way, or quicker, you can use, this is a mandoline. Actually, the one that I used to use in restaurant kitchens and I used to make the millionaires, that have all this money. I used to make them buy everything I wanted to work with, I need one of these, Okay, write the check. So this one is, I'm not a millionaire. This one is only like $28, and it does the same job as the $200 one that I used to make them buy. And so it's a very sharp blade, and then you just you adjust the thickness of the slice, and it'll come out exactly the same. Exactly the same. Like if you're going to do like oven-dried apple chips or oven-dried tomatoes, you can cut them exactly the same thickness, and then they'll all get done exactly the same. And then they're beautiful when they're exactly the same. It's incredible. So when that matters, or when you just want to save time. Now notice this one. Sometimes this happens. It's almost all core here. See this? The core is huge. Don't cut it out because that holds all the leaves together. But I'll show you. You can actually get around it. Start with the tip like this. See that? See that amazing? It just cuts it. You don't even have to look almost. And then see how it's going? And you kind of point this side towards the blade, and it'll actually cut around that core. You probably won't run into this problem very often, but if it does show up, this is how you handle it. And also, if you don't want them too long, you can go this way, and then this way, and then this way, and then this way, and they'll cut shorter pieces. See that? Like this for a while, and then like this for a while. And there you go. See that? Yeah, I think that's all we need. I just want to show you that. And you don't have to buy one of these if you don't want to. You can just cut it with a knife. All right, a couple more, and then we're ready to roll here. when I make a dish that has kind of like an Asian flavor, I like to do the vegetables with like the way they do it, like in these long, see the way the Asians do it? They do beautiful, beautiful cutting. And so the way I do this this is celery, by the way. The way I do that, for example, for the celery, take a stalk of celery, cut it in half lengthwise like this, and then line them up, and then get as close to parallel as possible, and then just cut them like, and then they come into these nice little sticks. Very simple. Anybody can do this. My next book, which is coming out in late July, early August, it's going to be called Extraordinary Vegan. And it's not about me being extraordinary. It's about the person who's using it being extraordinary. And their food. It's about the food being extraordinary. And the thing that I would like to do, what I would most like to do, in fact, it's stated in the beginning of that book, is my goal is to encourage and empower as many people as possible to make extraordinary food. It is not that hard. Most people stop at ordinary, and it's really a few more steps, like, paying attention to the shape, or reading up on something and adding a new thing, trying something new once a week or twice a week, going to an ethnic market and asking the produce guy, what the hell is that? And he goes, oh, that's a gailan, very good. We saute this. They'll tell you they love it. It makes them feel like they're really helping you. And then you take it home and do it, and sure enough, it's unusual. And this is how your food becomes extraordinary. And then again, you're more likely to eat at home because you can do it. And it really is. One of my lines is, never stop at ordinary. It's not that much further to extraordinary. So I've also got these like long shreds of carrot. Now this particular grater is not terribly sharp. It never was. I mean, it's not that they've abused it. These are not very sharp. So they'll come out a little jagged. The one I have at home is quite sharp, but it's also quite dangerous. So the way I do this, instead of just doing the normal way, just like this, and going back and forth like this, I hold it as close to parallel as possible, and not back and forth like this, but one long stroke like this. And what that does is it forces it to cut long shreds. And it's the same piece of equipment, but it's doing a different thing. And this, you really have to pay attention, because if you're not careful, you're not aware where your thumb is in relationship to the edge. This has happened to me, and it's really not nice. It'll go right there, and it'll cut a lengthwise, and you'll have your nail will now be like this. And you just got to wait for it to grow out, because that little split piece will always be there. Except, you have super glue? You can put a little dab of super glue there. It'll still hurt, but at least it'll stop separating. Anyway, just a little aside. Okay, super glue is fantastic for broken nails. Okay, so that's that into the pot. And that's the celery. So that's the whole salad, except for the dressing. Here you go, dear. Now, oh yeah, thank you. Just toss it in there, because I have to... All right, here we go. So I recommend, especially when you do a salad like this, mix the salad ingredients together first before you add the dressing. Now, you've seen me with my hands in the food all night, right? So do you trust me to do this with my hands? Thank you. I wash them very well. I wash my hands thousands of times a day. Make sure that they're well mixed. And see, if we had a bowl, I could show you more easily. But anyway, you just want to make sure that everything is evenly distributed, because what happens if you add the dressing and they're not, it's really hard to get them to distribute, because the dressing will kind of clump, and then you've got all the carrot on one side and all the celery on the other side, and that lovely massaged kale kind of sitting in a corner. All right, getting there, almost there. And then we eat, the best part. All right. I'm a little neurotic about this, so I really have to make sure that it's perfect. Perfection does exist, by the way. You know the saying, nobody's perfect? It's a cop-out. That's like an excuse for making a mistake. Actually, perfection does exist. It's just not in the outside. It's on the inside. And if you can get your head around the fact that it does exist, and that it's your responsibility to find it and to embody it and really try to be there, in my experience, your life goes a lot better. and you make a lot fewer excuses because you know you've done your best. And you can say, I did my best. I made a mistake. Okay. Next time I won't. Do something different. Okay, so now we're ready with the salad dressing. I'm going to just put it in over here. I'm still here. This is actually a great blender. Vitamix. I resisted Vitamix for many years. $500 for a blender? Are you out of your mind? But I saw one on sale for $350, and I called my wife. You know, you're talking about when you buy a gun, you need a cooling off period before you actually make the purchase, because you know. So my wife is my cooling off period. I called her and I said, "You know that Vitamix?" She goes, "Yes." And I said, "There's one for $350 at the Costco." She goes, "Just get it." So I did, and I'm never going back. It is an incredible machine. I mean, it's amazing. It'll blend anything. So anyway, these are like a mini one. See how that beautiful? Look at that green. I love green dressings. My body loves anything green. Okay, and I'll show you an Italian technique. I learned this from an Italian lady. She would, you know, make the pasta sauce and she'd pour it on the pasta, and then she would get the little thing, or she would do with a fork and the spaghetti. She would reach in and she would get every last bit of sauce out of that pot. Like that, see? Okay, then you just toss it. I think you're gonna really like this. This is like a crowd pleaser. And although I do recommend that you do take all the steps that I did and do all the same way, I know that you're going to do it your own way, and it'll still be good. I did this at a class at Whole Foods in Colorado Springs, and I went through this whole thing that I just gave you right now. Whole explanation, showed them exactly how to do it. And then there was a lady there from the newspaper. She wrote me up in the newspaper. It's great. Front page of the food section. It was a great plug. And then she invited me to be on her radio show. I said, great. So she interviewed me on the radio, and we had a good time. And then she did a video herself. She had on the web to accompany the article that she wrote about me. And she was demonstrating the same thing, and she made a mess of it. She just chopped everything, threw it on. It didn't look anything like my salad. But she tried it, and she goes, this is delicious. And you know what? I believe her. So it's my recipe, but it's your food. So as long as you're cooking and eating at home, my job is done, right? Okay, now my charming assistant will dish it up. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. Anyone? Anyone? Oh, hello, sir. An open thing of honey? I have no idea. But you're very observant. Maybe it's to attract flies. You catch more flies with honey than vinegar. Any other questions? It's not my store. I don't know why. But I love the eye for detail. Yes, ma'am. I can't hear you. I'm sorry. There's a... The garlic in the oil, yeah? You always want to keep Udo's oil in the fridge. As soon as you buy it, put it in the fridge, because there's nothing that's been done to protect the shelf life, so you want to keep it cold. It'll keep for the life of the oil, and you want to cover it, because oxygen is also harmful. You want to really protect it. But in my house, a couple of days, it's gone. My wife puts this on her toast, and again, I use it as an ingredient in other things. My suggestion is don't make any more than you figure you're going to use in 2 or 3 days, because the first day is the best. The garlic is fresh pressed, and it's got that bright garlic, that pungent. The next day, it's going to taste like the kind of garlic you get in a jar. And the third day, it's going to be kind of broken down. And the fourth day, it's kind of like, let's put some fresh garlic in there. So it will last, but it won't have that same pleasure factor. Anyone else? Yeah. The lime. Well, because I wanted actually more of the peel in there. It has just a little bit of the pith actually adds flavor. And it's kind of easier. Maybe not. I don't know. Good question. I've had that question before. I still don't have the right answer. Obviously, because you're still asking it. If it had been obvious, she was, oh, yeah, it's because, yeah, makes sense. Some of the things I do actually don't have a reason yet. It's just the way I do it. Okay, good. You what? Absolutely. Because if you don't pay attention, you can actually cut yourself with that little... Yeah. Anyone else? Wow, I must have done an excellent job. They don't... Oh, how long? Since I wrote that book, about... I think it's about 4 years, 3 years, 4 years. Actually, it was before it came out. Because that was the thing, the first time I ran the Pikes Peak Ascent was 3 years ago. And I had to train before that, and I went vegan before I started training. So yeah, but almost 4 years. I had to do that in my head, out loud, sorry. Yeah. And I will tell you this. I wasn't expecting any great results. I was expecting my cholesterol to go down because I figured if you're not putting it in, it's not going to be in your blood. But 3 days is all it took, and I am never, ever going back. Yeah, dairy alone, I'm sure, made a huge thing. Every morning when I woke up, my head was like... I couldn't breathe. And I had, we use a neti pot. You flush out your sinuses. It's kind of a disgusting thing to do. I had to do it every morning or I couldn't breathe. Never needed it since. Have not been sick one day since. My wife has had the flu. My son has had the flu. Never. I mean, I use it. I do use the neti pot when they're sick, just to make sure that I'm flushing anything I might be gathering in there. I have more energy. I could stay up until midnight, 1 o'clock, which I normally would do. And used to have to sleep in until 9 or 10. 5 a.m., ready to go. I'm 60, and I feel like I did when I was 40. Yeah. And the greens, well, yeah, I mean, also you eat more vegetables, and vegetables are really good for you. And the animal products just kind of clog you. And, of course, I've heard all the explanations, and vegetarians have different kind of teeth, and... and the meat eaters have a different kind of... And human beings aren't made to... Human beings are omnivores. We can eat whatever we want. The question is, what does your body want? And what works for you? And some people can handle it. And I'm not here to tell you, you can't handle it. You decide, what you can handle. But try it. Try and see. Back off the dairy and see how you feel. Or back off, eat less meat. Or if you're interested, I'm not... I have a friend who's like a hardcore animal rights activist. I mean, like the abolitionist kind that wants to just... And she was getting at it. And I said, look, I have to tell you, I'm not an animal rights activist. And she said, well, you make that sound like a bad thing. I said, no, it's a good thing. It's very important work. Animals are mistreated. I love that you're doing it. It's just not in me. I'm a joy activist. And what I see from the people that are out there trying to get this animal thing stopped, they're not very joyful. And they have a very low opinion of human beings. They like animals. They don't like us. So I'm about joy. I'm about enjoying my life. I'm about helping other people enjoy their life. And I'm helping by not eating them. Okay? I did my job. I'm sorry, I'm not getting on. You what? Exactly. Whatever works. Evolution, if you believe in it, is about what worked. If it didn't work, it would die off. Here we are. This is it. Hook.
There's another question there.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. The question was, do I enjoy green smoothies? I do, but it depends on how they're made, because it depends on the ingredients, and I've made some that I couldn't get down, and I've made some that I could just delicious. So it depends on how they're made. I find that if I put a little apple in, with the kale and the cabbage and the celery and a few dates just to sweeten it a little bit. I don't ever eat sugar anymore, but dates, they got minerals and they're good for you. And then what else? Maybe my wife puts a banana in it because that sweetens it enough for her. And I use coconut water. Yeah. If you can make it taste good, it's good for you. If it tastes awful, quickly I can tell the story about the Swedish lady and the Thai lady. Can I? Did I? Yeah, so. Can I? Okay. They did this experiment. I read this in the New York Times. It was a study they did. They took a Thai lady who had just arrived in the United States, traditional Thai lady. They gave her the traditional Thai food, very spicy. And they had a Swedish lady, pretty much right from Sweden. And they made them both eat the same food. They measured the food, each got the same amount, and they tested their blood before and after. And the Swedish lady could barely get the food down. It was so hot, and so foreign to her. She hated it. And the Thai lady was just, this is great. Who made this? This is fantastic. And then afterwards, they measured the blood or tested it. And the Thai lady absorbed more nutrients from the food, the exact same food, same quantity, than the Swedish lady got. So then they had them come back on a different occasion, and they gave them both Swedish food, which the Thai lady was like, what the hell is this? And the Swedish lady was, this is my food. The reverse happened. The Swedish lady absorbed more from that than the Thai lady did. So then they said, They took the Thai lady and they got that same food that she had before that she loved, but they put it in one of these and just made a disgusting slop out of it, and she had to eat it that way, and she got even less from that than she got from the Swedish food. So I rest my case. Must enjoy. Must enjoy. It's our primary directive, Just survival. People think that survival is the primary directive. It's not. It's important. I think it's number 2. Because why would you want to survive if you weren't going to enjoy it? The primary directive is to enjoy this life. It's a gift. We're guests here. We came from somewhere. We're going back. And right now, it's a vacation. It's to be enjoyed. Okay, now I'll shut up. Go ahead.
Well, everyone is now enjoying the samples. Do we have
Not everybody.
A round of applause for the people that are enjoying the samples so far for Chef Alan?
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
As promised, he's entertaining. He's delightful.
I did my best.
And everything smells delicious. You're just getting all the aromas from all the way.
I can smell it from here.
Yeah.
Of course, I could smell it before.
From all of the techniques he's shown us this evening, which are really amazing, with the different tools and how to use a knife properly, which is very important.
And improperly.
He tried to hack at some of our equipment.
Sorry about the counter.
So, yes, we're really grateful for you being here this evening. Thank you to Flora and Jen,
yes, my charming assistant. Yay! It wouldn't have flowed anywhere near as well if she hadn't been there.
So the ladies are just still coming around, finishing off, giving out the samples, and then they're going to help take away the garbage. So in the meantime, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the draw, and I'm also going to pass around a list that Chef Alan is offering to you guys this evening. You can be on his mailing list. So I've got a spot for your name and your email.
Right.
And you can just fill that out if you like. It's your choice.
And please write as carefully as you can so I can read it right. Otherwise, you might get left off the email. And please tell me your name, because I don't like writing an email to hi.
Can I give you that?
Yeah, it's just so impersonal.
Start in the back where the people have eaten. I just found out there's a few people who are not in the draw, so I just have to get a few more ballots in.
I'm here all week.
So anyone that has questions, please go ahead. We're just going to get a few more ballots in the draw box.
Oh, wait. Oh, well, never mind.
Yeah, I know. We did it again.
In the recipe, there are roasted cashews on top. They actually don't have roasted. Maybe that's why it is. There's something in me that just can't put the raw cashew on this. But anyway, when you make this at home, put a few roasted cashews in it. With the spot. Anyway. Yeah, speed vegan. Yeah, Tapenade's in this one. The Thai curry salad is in this. The green curry salad is in this one. So you have to buy both.